Okay, so we're doing a comparison today. We have the 2024 Porsche Cayenne and the 2024 BMW X5. This is the new generation X5. That is a facelift version this year. We did a review on the Cayenne Coupe. You can watch that. The link will be in the description below. But today, we're comparing two very German popular luxury SUVs, the BMW versus the Porsche Cayenne. Now, let us begin with the Porsche Cayenne. Let's talk about the exterior design of this thing. Here's what I think about it. It is a Porsche 911 SUV looking like. That's the way I see this. And I think that's what the theme about this car is all about. Headlights. These headlights, in my opinion, look like straight out of a Star Wars movie. The way they're designed, the way they're shaped. Of course, this is the latest technology for the headlights, LED. And these are super sharp at night. Next thing is the front end of this car. It's a massive grille at the bottom. And it's still very simplistic, yet sporty at the same time, which I really appreciate. It is aggressive, but it's a car that you can notice from far away that it is a Cayenne. Moving on to the side profile. Again, this remains very much the same as the 2023 model. Here's what we have. Soft closing option in this case, so you don't have to slam it. It will close softly. Moving on to the bottom part over here, these are the winter tires, so these are not the best wheels for this car. But we do get 4 caliper piston red painted in the back. And then moving on to the front side, we have 6 piston red painted Porsche calipers for the best braking performance. This is also equipped with air ride. You can adjust the air ride from inside and it changes based on the driving mode. Moving on to the back side of the Cayenne, again, that design from the Cayenne Coupe kind of continues here. The difference is that this doesn't get that massive spoiler in the back, which opens up when you drive at high speeds. But with the Cayenne S, you get the quad exhaust tip on each side. This is the V8 engine for this year. You do get hands-free tailgate in this case. But here's one thing that you need to be aware. The Porsche Cayenne doesn't offer the most space out of these two. In fact, it offers less space in comparison to the BMW. Even with the folded seats down, the X5 offers about 33.9 for the behind the second row seats and 72.3 cubic feet of space with all the seats down. The Porsche Cayenne, on the other hand, is a bit smaller than that. In fact, it offers 27.2 cubic feet of space behind the second row and 60.3 cubic feet of space behind the first row with all the seats in the second row folded. You do get, of course, the option to lower the vehicle with the buttons located onto this side in case if this is too high. And then jumping at the top over here, we have 2 buttons, one to close the tailgate and one to lock the vehicle. Let us talk about the BMW X5 on this side, starting with the rear end. The first thing you notice is the chrome finish tips at the bottom with this packaged single exhaust tip on its side with a bit of an aggressive, of course, diffuser. But here's the important thing about this is that it is new for this year. The tail lights are new and have a beautiful effect with the BMW logo on the side. And even when you turn them off and turn them on, it softly turns on and softly turns off, which I think it's that signature for the BMW in general. Moving on to the actual tailgate. Of course, this is an X5, therefore it offers the split tailgate. What I mean with that, when you look carefully over here, you have this button and you can fold the bottom part of the tailgate to give you access to this massive cargo space, which I said it does offer more than the Cayenne. Moving on to underneath here, you get some space, which you have the plug-in because this is a PHV model that we have for today's video. You can fold the seats with the buttons located, with the lever located onto the side over there. Same thing with a Cayenne. And one thing you notice that it's the X, therefore there is an X in there. And you have 2 buttons at the top, one to lock the vehicle and one to lock the tailgate. But if you look carefully here, this is the button to lower the vehicle in case if it's too high. Moving on to the side profile, this burgundy color is absolutely stunning for this BMW X5. The wheels are the ugliest one, but hey, these are winter wheels, so we're not going to judge them as much. Moving on to the brakes, we have single piston in the back, painted in blue calipers in this case, and then the front side we have painted in blue with the M Performance 4-piston, I believe, for the front brakes. This is also equipped with air suspension system, and at the same time, you do not want to harm these beautiful doors. You don't have to slam them at all because they do come with soft closing. If you do get the M Performance version, which would be the M60i X5, you do get the M Performance mirrors as well. In this case, with the base model, you do not get that option. Moving on to the front end. Now, as I said, that to me looks like a Star Wars car. This one looks straight from a Transformers movie. I mean, look at the headlights, the way they're just designed. It's like a matrix in there. It's like a totally different computer. The colors on the interior, the blue finish. Of course, these are the BMW LED lights. The grille at the front, it is finished in chrome, but what's even more important is the fact that it actually lights up at night, which gives it a very beautiful design and something you can really notice from far away at night that it is an X5. Moving on to the bottom part, unlike the Porsche, this has a bit more aggressive design. The lower part of the bumper, including those channels that you see for the brake vents and for the side one as well. At the bottom, you have the system for the driver system package, and of course the BMW badge. It is painted in a blue color, which shows that this is a plug-in hybrid. Now the question remains, which one do I like out of these two? I would go a little bit more with the X5 in terms of the exterior. It just got that aggressive look. I like the looks overall on the front end. I know the grille might not be the best thing for you guys, but I think the front end looks a little bit nicer. That's not to say the Cayenne doesn't look beautiful. That looks just as beautiful, but they're so different. They're so differently designed, in my opinion, which is a great thing, but at the same time makes it hard to pick a winner on this side. I would just go a little bit more with a BMW in terms of the exterior design, but I do appreciate the 911 look of the Porsche Cayenne in the front. Let us move on to the interior, and let's start first with the X5 with a second row. Let's jump into the interior. Let's talk about you to get in here. The first thing is that you get the sunshades manually adjustable on this side, power windows, nice leather finish, of course, all around with the M badge right on the side step. You have the interior here, which is quite nice as well. Beautiful leather overall. Oh, look what I found here. Interesting, someone left that. And you can fold these seats over onto the side. It is 60-40, meaning that you can fold these over here together and that one separately. And then if you look carefully, it does come with an ambient light. At the top, we have a beautiful panoramic roof, which does come with a sky dome style. At nights, it has different effects for the lights, which I think it gives it a beautiful experience for the passenger on the back. Now let's jump into the inside. Okay, into the BMW first. I'm 6'2", so that gives you an idea how much space you get overall. It is a fact that's the BMW, it is slightly bigger in the inside, including the second row and the first row, so you get a bit more of that room in here. And I think the reason is because the Porsche on that side, even though it's an SUV, it kind of looks like a coupe at the back. That's my opinion. The BMW is a bit more flat, therefore it is more spacious on the inside. I have to say, it's nice and spacious here. I would feel comfortable going on a trip here for at least 4 to 5 hours, the passenger in the back, no problem whatsoever. There's a USB-C port on the side that you can attach, and it also comes with accessories, including big screens in the back if you wanted to have for your kids. In the center here, we have a center climate unit with heated seats for both sides in this case. There's some space underneath, and then at the bottom you have 2 USB-C ports. But overall, the space is actually quite nice, and I just realized that this seat is actually far too back. It should be a little bit forward. I have moved it because I was shooting some videos in the front. So even with that all the way to the back, I still get space. Let me just move it forward as if I was the driver. Give me 2 seconds. Even more room. I have to say, this thing feels very spacious in the back. Now let's jump into the back of the Porsche and let's talk about what that offers. First of all, we have hands-free doors with this one. You open the door and you get welcomed by this beautiful interior, the leather specifically, and this flash design that the Porsche has with the glossy trim. Now, one thing you notice that this doesn't have the standard sunshades as the BMW X5, but these are actually hidden. So you have the button located right in here. You press that once, and there you go. It automatically pops out. And if you're done with it, you can press it once, and then they disappear, which I think is nice and handy, and also a little bit quicker, I have to say, instead of working it manually. Next thing is the interior, presented by this beautiful Cayenne badge. You're welcomed by this beautiful Cayenne finish badge in there. You also have the option to fold the seats with the button located, with the lever located right in here. You pull that and you can fold 60/40, similar to the BMW, and you also get an armrest in the center. The Porsche seats, also the backside, have this Porsche crest, which I really appreciate. Same thing with the seats in the front. And if you notice carefully, the seats in the front are designed differently to the BMW. These are sort of like bucket style, beautiful design all the way through, which I really appreciate because it does give a different experience as a passenger or as a driver in this case. Now let's jump into the inside and let's talk about what we get in here. Okay, here we go. I've set the seats in the front as if I was the driver, meaning that I'm sitting in the front. I have to say it does feel roomy, but the BMW feels a bit wider overall and more headroom in comparison to this. But one thing I did notice with this is that it does have a bigger panoramic roof. It actually is extended, it's wider and longer in comparison to the X5. Also, I'm sitting a little bit lower in here in comparison to the X5, where you sit higher, which it's not the best in terms of the visibility in the front, but it's not unusable in some ways and uncomfortable. In terms of tech features, here's what you get. So there's a climate unit in here, dual zone, I believe, in this case, and you can control for both sides. At the same time, you have heated seats, but the BMW has those buttons. The Porsche uses an actual flat screen with haptic buttons, so you can still feel them, but they're not properly individual buttons. At the bottom, we have two USB-C ports, and you get some space underneath here to store your phone or anything else like that. Behind the seats, we have these nets that are essentially your compartments to use for the passengers in the back. Overall, I have to say, it's about the same in terms of space, even though the numbers show differently. The difference is not massive, and that's one thing I like about when I jump inside, because I'm able to show you exactly how much space you get. And I'm 6'2", which means I'm taller than the average individual. This will give you the best understanding of space overall. Now, since we are in the Porsche, let's jump into the front seats and let's talk about what you get in there. And look at the design over here, flush all the way through with this glossy finish. The same thing with the buttons over onto the sides, and the control units for the tailgates, the mirrors and everything is located right in here for easy access. Moving on to the plate over here, you're welcomed by this beautiful Cayenne S in this case. This is much larger than the second one, but here's one thing you notice. All these buttons on the side for the driver's seat is absolutely insane, and it's similar to the passenger side. I believe this is an 18-way adjustment. There's like buttons for everything. Leg extension in this case. We have the center part adjustment, more adjustments in this case. You have the recliner all the way through, center part for the recliner, bolster adjustment, and so on. There's so much that you can control from this side, which is pretty crazy, but at the same time, that's why you're paying the big money. Let's jump onto the interior and let's talk about what it offers in here and how it compares to the BMW. Here we go. Perfect. Let's start it up. The button is located on the left side of the cluster, in this case for the Porsche. I'm just going to adjust the steering column, which it is powers, and look how extended this thing is. Pretty big. Now, the first thing is when you jump inside with the Porsche, you realize it's a very different SUV in comparison to most SUVs out there. What I mean with that, first of all, they've gone a bit more digital this time with a massive cluster curved display in the center. In fact, the entire part of the dashboard is shaved to give space to this screen, but they've still maintained that Porsche cluster design. What I mean is that it still looks a bit mechanical, even though it is digital. It looks a bit analog at the same time. You got the three massive rounds with the middle one that shows the RPM and the speed in the center. And then moving on to the right side, now the actual shift knob is located in the right side of the actual cluster beside the infotainment display, which is a massive screen, but this is flat all the way through, meaning that It's not curved, and it's one piece with the passenger side, which does have an actual display so that the passenger can play. That is, of course, an option, and this is available now. So it's similar to what the Taycan offered for a while. Moving on to the center side, here we have sort of less buttons, but still enough for the climate unit in this case. And again, these are haptic buttons. Then you got some space into this area to store some stuff. We got the cup holders, and you have these two handles on the side, which kind of remind me a bit of the Mercedes GLE, which offers similar to that. And then there's an arm rest. Now let's jump into the BMW. Same thing, this one comes with soft closing option, welcomed by the M plate located there for the side step. And then moving on to the door panel, we have all the control unit here, similar to the Porsche. It's just a different design, not as flat, just a bit more curvy. And I think it matches the theme of the exterior design of this car. And then you have memory seats onto this area. Now, in terms of the seat here for the driver's side, similar to the Porsche, but not as advanced and not too many buttons. You can control everything through here. It's only in one piece, which I kind of appreciate sometimes. Okay, into the BMW. And the first thing you notice with the BMW, it is a bit shinier on the inside. What I mean with that, first of all, the dashboard has this beautiful finish wood trim design and shiny, and the X5 logo flashing onto the right side. The same thing with the center area here. You have this beautiful finish with the ambient light around, very glossy look-alike, yet with that woody finish design, which I appreciate in some ways, but it's going to be hard to keep clean this thing all the time. And then the center part over here, we have these air vents which do not move at all. You don't even see them moving, but you can adjust them through here. Now, to start it up, you have the button located into the center. Because this is a plug-in hybrid, that means you don't hear the engine right away unless I press this button, which is called Sport Mode, and then now it goes into the petrol engine in this case. And then in the center here, there's a lot of buttons that you can control. The shift knob is located in center, unlike the BMW. And then the biggest part that you notice here is this massive curved display, which is sort of available in every BMW right now. In fact, if you got into an X5 or an X7, you wouldn't know right away which one is which, because they kind of look the same in some ways. Now, the BMW focuses a bit more on that luxury side, not so much on the sportiness. There's a bit of sportiness onto the steering wheel, like the pedal shifters look nice. There's no flat button for the steering wheel. It's nice and grippy. The Porsche is less complicated yet minimalistic but functional. The Beamer has like buttons over here, pedal shifters, thick steering wheel in the center piece, and then power steering column, which is nice. Then there's a head-up display, and then you got more buttons onto this side. But the theme, the design is very different. That comes down to what you like. Do you like this kind of design with these curved display in the center, or do you like the Porsche, which is a bit different? It's very hard to explain it to you unless you jump inside and feel everything, but it all comes down to individuals. Which one do you prefer? In terms of functionality, they're about the same, except the Porsche having that shift knob in there. Do you like that, or do you like this little thing here in the center that you can control the gears? That's what it comes down to. It's not that one is bad, the other one is better. It's just comes down to taste. Which one do you like the most in terms of design? I prefer the interior of the Porsche. I don't know why. I just feel like I connect well with the car in some ways. This, on the other hand, to me, it's just too shiny, too gamey. Like, for example, the cluster, it's like a computer. It's a bit like, well, it is a computer, but it's very gamey. It feels like a Need for Speed kind of cluster that you see in those games, car games specifically. That's one thing that I noticed with the BMW, and just like all different layouts. Okay, let's go for a drive. Let's start first with the Porsche. In this case, we got the 2024 model, which this one is not the plug-in hybrid. And I understand you guys are gonna say, Sam, that's not fair. Unfortunately, in Canada, we don't get to be very picky, and we don't get the best models, or we don't get a lot of options, to be honest with you, because they're just very limited. So it's very hard for me to match some cars. But we're gonna talk about these two just the way we have them, as an X5, as a Cayenne, and what do they offer in terms of hybrid. And here's what you need to know. The one that we're driving for today is actually the V8 turbocharged engine. It's not the plug-in hybrid. But in Canada and the United States, they offer two plug-in hybrid models. There's the base model, which is the e-hybrid called, and that one uses a 3-liter V6 engine, turbocharged of course, and that one makes stock without the hybrid 309 horsepower. Meanwhile, with the hybrid model, that one makes 463 brake horsepower, V6 and hybrid together, plug-in hybrid, and 479 pound-feet of torque. It will do 0 to 60 in about 4.6 seconds. But then you have the Cayenne S, which has a plug-in hybrid as well, and that one makes over 500 horsepower, which again makes it more powerful than the X5, which only offers one option in terms of the plug-in hybrid. The best thing about the hybrid is the fact that you can drive on your own in the HOV lanes, and I think I have to emphasize this every time because it's shocking to me that people don't know. You can be one occupant in the vehicle. Of course, you're going to need someone to drive for now. That means that you get the chance to drive in the HOV lane alone. You're probably wondering, what's the point of driving in an HOV lane alone? Like, the whole point of HOV is for the environment and not many people drive. Well, here's the beautiful thing is that if you drive in the HOV lane alone, that means that you give more space and less traffic it's created on the right side. Yes, that's the biggest benefit. And that way, they also assume that because you have a plug-in hybrid, it's a bit more economical and also better for the environment. Not sure if that's any true, but that's essentially what the politicians that made up this law think of, which I think it's pretty insane because even the hybrid standard are in the same level. But their idea is that because the plug-in hybrids can drive on full electric alone, which I think is probably one of the biggest benefits with plug-in hybrids. In terms of the hybrid version of this, you get essentially a 25.9 kilowatts an hour battery, and the charging time is about 2.5 hours with the Porsche plug-in hybrid. And that one gives you about 40 miles or 70 kilometers on a single charge. The one that we're driving today, it's the V8 turbocharged engine, and this one makes less than 500 horsepower, and it is all-wheel drive. Now, in terms of the pricing for the Porsche, here's what you need to know. The Porsche in Canada, which is the base hybrid, starts at $95,000 Canadian, or that'll be 80,000 US. Meanwhile, the Cayenne hybrid, e-hybrid in this case, that starts about $91,000 US or $99,000 Canadian. And then you have the Cayenne S hybrid, which in Canada starts at $124,000. That is absolutely insane. It's because it's expensive. That is, of course, more expensive. In fact, it's more expensive than the BMW. Now, how does this thing drive with the V8? Here's the crazy part. Even though the X5, it is a 6-cylinder, we know BMW is pretty good at doing that. The BMW and this, even though this is not a hybrid, they drive about the same. Driving the X5 and this, that one being a hybrid and this one being a V8, they feel just as fast. But one thing I do like about the Porsche, it's this button on the steering wheel, and I'm shocked that they don't offer the boost version that the V6 gets, where you press the button, it gives you about 20 seconds boost. But this one is Sport Plus. You put your foot down, it pulls hard. It's a V8, which is kind of nice. The cabin noise is not as noticeable. Today is actually really windy, and I don't have to raise my voice for you guys to listen to me, which makes it very quiet on the inside. And even the road noise is not as bad. I would expect it with these winter tires to be pretty horrible, to be honest, but it's not. It's just super comfortable. I would love to do a 12-hour trip with this car, no problem. The seats are super comfortable. The sitting position, it's perfect. I can have my leg extension as well. It is really nice SUV. I'm quite impressed with the driving experience of this car. Now let's talk about the BMW X5. The one that we have is the 50e. Under the hood, this uses a 3-liter inline-6 turbocharged engine. Of course, very famous engine used in a lot of BMWs. And this one is, of course, the hybrid, which in total makes 483 brake horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. It will do 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds, similar to the Cayenne. Now, one shocking part about this engine, I have to say, is that even though it is a 6-cylinder with the hybrid motor, it actually drives about the same as the V8 from the Cayenne S. And another thing that I like about this setup for the BMW that I actually forgot to mention that on the Porsche is the gas pedal and the brake pedal. They are far away, and they're actually in the perfect position, not necessarily far away, but they're in the perfect position and they're more comfortable. In the Porsche, I kept hitting the gas and brake at the same time. It made it a bit annoying, and my buddy Jim jumped in the Porsche just to see us, and he said the exact same thing. He's like, why are these pedals so close to each other? So clearly isn't just me. Now, in terms of the range, they get about the same if you had to compare the hybrids, about 70 kilometers on a full charge, or would be about 40 miles on a full charge for the BMW, which is similar to what the Cayenne hybrid offers. But the difference is that the Cayenne offers 2 engines for the hybrid. You can get the V8 or the V6. BMW only offers, for a plug-in hybrid, only the inline 6.3 liters in this case. It uses a 29.5 kilowatts an hour battery. Charging time is about 3.2 hours. And the maximum charging performance for this one is about 7.4 kilowatts. Now, the next thing is the pricing. And I think that's where BMW sort of wins over the Cayenne, because it is, well, a bit more affordable than the Cayenne. In Canada, the base model BMW X5 starts at about $88,000 Canadian, which would be about $65,000 US. The 50E in Canada starts at about $93,000 or $72,000 USD, which still makes it more affordable than the Cayenne. And another thing to mention is the fact that unlike the Porsche Cayenne, the BMW is actually manufactured, or assembled in this case, in the US, unlike the Cayenne, which comes from Germany. Now the question that you're probably wondering, is the Cayenne worth the extra cost over the BMW? And that one is a very tough question. I've been asking that myself for the full week. Why would I pay more for the Cayenne where I can get the BMW X5, which is super popular model? And I think it comes down to 2 factors. One, it's because you actually like the Cayenne and you can't stand the BMW. And 2, I think it's the driving experience. Hear me out on this one. BMW is comfortable, not as comfortable as Porsche. The BMW offers more space, but the interior of the Porsche, in my opinion, feels slightly more sturdy, and just the quality overall feels slightly better than the BMW. That's my opinion, and I've been driving these two for the full week, and back and forth, you notice that. It's like the little fit and finish in the Porsche is very noticeable in comparison to the BMW. Besides the pedals, which I did complain, and I think you get used to it, especially if you wear skinny shoes, it's totally fine. Wintertime, not so much. I would still pick the Porsche, and here's why. It's not because the BMW is not a good car. It's not because the Porsche is a lot better car. I think the driving experience in the Porsche is so much more enjoyable as a sports SUV. And I drove the V6 in the Porsche. I think that's still a very good engine, and being plug-in hybrid, it's even better. But this engine here, it's still very, very good for a inline 6. It all comes down to which one you like and if you're willing to pay the extra money for the Porsche. That's the way I see it. But in terms of driving experience, I personally think they're different. Not very different, but they're different.